It's official. President Biden and Vice President Harris are running in 2024 on a message of preserving American democracy and freedom. Take that, Trump. Welcome to MOMocrats MOMochat, part of the DemCast family of podcasts. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills with Karoli and our special guest, Red Painter 12. They are both from crooksandliars.com. And once again, it's been a week, ladies.
So much of a week.
Every week I say, this is the craziest week ever. And then next week is crazier.
You know, I do an art class on Thursday afternoons. And so, I disengaged from everything like at 10 in the morning yesterday. And I drive into LA and I had lunch with one of the other students and did my little painting. And about 2:30, I'm going back to my car and I've got MSNBC in the car. And so I switched it from music to MSNBC. And that's when I heard about Pence. And I'm going, every time I walk away, something happens.
That flew so under the radar. I mean, I am right outside DC. So, I know people that work right down there. Nobody knew anything. He literally just snuck in the back door. It was just heightened security, which is not uncommon for the DC Federal Courthouse. I mean, they have so many high-level people coming. But the fact that Pence was there less than 24 hours after the appeals court threw out Donald Trump's last-minute attempt to get him silenced was pretty remarkable. Didn't even wait for a higher level appeal, SCOTUS, nothing. He just showed up. He's like, I'm good. I'm ready.
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
It was great. And he was there a long time. He was there from 9 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon. And I was almost thinking maybe he was going to have to come back because that's like a whole day, right? I mean, so I thought, maybe he's coming back the next day too.
I wondered the same thing, but I don't think he did. I think it was just the one day, but still.
They must have gotten everything they needed. But if they're up to Pence, if Jack Smith is up to Pence, right? Doesn't that mean that that he's pretty much at the end of the witness list?
Oh God, I hope.
I mean,
logically, Pence was literally right below Trump. He was like the person that Trump was trying to pressure the whole time. Right. So if he's spoken to the people around Trump, it's really just Trump and Pence, and I think that's probably the end of the line.
Mark Meadows, maybe.
Has he talked to him?
I know
he didn't. I know his appeal was thrown out, so he was ruled that he had to talk to him as well.
I think Mark Meadows did. I'm pretty sure he did. I think that Mark Meadows has been in there. I think that's why it seems to me like Pence was the final piece of this, right? That would.
That's the thing. Mark Meadows doesn't have Secret Service protection. Right. So Mark Meadows shows up and sneaks in the back way. You're not going to see all the signs that you would from a former vice president going in.
I feel like Mark Meadows looks a little bit more nondescript than Mike Pence. Mike Pence has a very he's tall, and I think he stands out a little bit more, plus the Secret Service stuff. But Mark Meadows just kind of blends in DC guys. I wouldn't recognize him if I saw him on the street. It's possible he's been in. Mike Pence was the guy that was being pressured the entire time. So probably a lot of conversations were just between the two of them. Mark Meadows may not have even been in the room. So I do think, Karoli, you're right. Probably Mike Pence is the last stop before the end of the line.
Yeah. So, which I think is interesting. And then there was a big debate going on today on one of the zillions of social media networks there are now, about whether or not the special counsel has the right to indict. And I think he does. But I don't think it's him. It's the grand jury that puts the indictments, right?
Yeah, the grand jury would put out a true bill. So basically they would recommend an indictment or recommend charges. And then based off of that, the prosecutors could build their own charging documents or indictments based off of the recommendations. And so that way it kind of takes away some bias, but it also sets it up that, grand jury of totally impartial people heard all this evidence, heard stuff presented by the prosecutor, and decided these charges were appropriate. So it kind of helps them have additional, I guess, input outside of just the prosecutors. And in this case, it's really critical because it's so high level.
Yeah, exactly.
And, they keep talking about the 2024 election looming.
Mm-hmm.
And, Trump's very, very early declaration, to try to get out of all of this. So, you've got that time pressure on Jack Smith as well.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that could help Trump at this point if he gets indicted is trying to run out the clock. But Jack Smith could make the case in front of a judge that means we have to get this case done earlier, because once 2024 happens, if he wins, by January 2025, we have to stop the case. So I actually think it behooves a court to move the clock quicker, and Trump would have less excuses.
Right. That's another reason why
courts are on to the delay tactics too.
Oh yeah,
I think they figured it out at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much exhausted every judge on the planet, with some kind of delay tactic. So, I mean, I could see Jack Smith really moving on this fast, which I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up on the one hand, but I really want that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I hope if he's at the end of the road that he can get some charges out by early summer and things can get moving, because that gives a good 2 years before, a year before the election, a year and a half before inauguration, if please don't win. But, they got to get started
please, Joe Biden, please.
Soon.
Yeah.
I can't take it again.
It's pretty exciting though to think, that they've gotten Pence's testimony. Now he's on the record that, whatever happens at some point, I think we're going to know what he said in there.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be damning.
Yeah. It's absolutely remarkable to have a vice president testifying to a grand jury about things that the president did that were illegal. I mean, that's never happened before. It's insane.
Well, this is the first time that the nation, the Electoral College, whatever, elected a mobster to be president.
Yeah.
So everything in the last 7 years has been remarkable.
Yeah,
that's true.
And not in a good way.
Yeah, that's true too.
Just an absolute moralless, soulless criminal. I mean, truly, just the bottom of the bottom. And the scariest part is, although his base is shrinking, it's not 40% or whatever it was before, he still has a commanding hold on, 30% of the country are just diehard MAGA. They will not give up on him. No matter if he's found, guilty in the civil trial for raping E. Jean Carroll, if he ends up getting indicted in Georgia, if he ends up getting indicted or convicted by Jack Smith, they will believe it's all fake.
Yeah, well, that is a 30-year campaign by Fox News and the rest of the right-wing media bubble to create this infrastructure that has them all siloed off from the rest of the country. So you've got the fact-based universe, and then you've got the Fox universe. And does anybody else get visions of horror when they talk about things like Tucker running as his vice president?
Oh my God. I don't know which is worse, Tucker or Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, there are so many terrible options. Jeanine Pirro, but Tucker would be, he'd probably bring some more space, bring some voters over in addition to those 30%.
So, speaking of Tucker Carlson, I mean, what a way to start the week. Monday. I mean, that wasn't on my radar.
Normally I hate Monday. It's the worst day of the week, but that was the best Monday I can remember in an incredibly long time.
Same. I mean, the fact that he's gone from Fox News and that he's got all these possibilities ahead of him doesn't even faze me. Just having him gone from Fox News is such a huge thing. It's huge, and it's wonderful. I mean, he He
go.
is one of the most destructive voices in this nation.
Yeah.
And,
100%. I mean, I have friends that don't even like really watch the news or keep up with, right wing. I mean, they're Democrats, but they don't really keep up with stuff. And
Yeah.
they were texting me like, "Oh my god, did you hear Tucker Carlson got fired?" I mean, it was people that aren't even like keeping up with this stuff were happy, and that should tell you something. I mean, the guy is a cancer.
Yeah.
I saw a cartoon a while ago that I always think of when I think of Tucker. It was like a black and white cartoon, and it was an older man sitting it like with his head popped open, and
Mhm.
Fox News had like a siphon, like it was pumping poop right into his brain. And I think on the screen was Tucker, somebody that looked like him with a bow tie. Anyways, that's what I always think of when I think of Tucker Carlson. He's literally just pushing sewage at people,
Yeah.
and it's terrifying that they believed it.
They're
Yeah.
lapping it up. Going back to your comment about the MAGA people being so entrenched, I don't know if you saw today, but Trump did a thing in New Hampshire yesterday, and one of the January 6th people came up to him with her backpack.
Yes.
And he autographed it and gave her a hug, and she said it was like touching Jesus Christ. I'm like, what? Who has bewitched you? I mean, I'm serious. How is this man? I don't.
It's a cult.
Yeah, it's like very Jim Jones, like cult, old, terrible space.
All right. So Tucker.
I know. What a glorious day.
Yeah.
It was a great surprise. Wonderful for America. Could not be more happy.
I mean, I couldn't believe it at first. My sister, I'm like on the Peloton. My sister texts me. She goes, Tucker Carlson's fired. I'm like, what? That can't be. Where are you hearing this?
I mean, it's crazy is that the lies about January 6th, the misogyny, the homophobia, none of that is what got him fired. What got him fired was, at least what's being reported, is the comments he made, in emails or text messages about Fox management.
Yes.
And then what potentially could come out from this Abby Grossman lawsuit that would sort of embarrass the network. That was the last straw for them. Not all the other stuff, which just poisoned our country. That was okay.
We don't see Maria Bartiromo fired. We don't see Jean Pirro fired. We just see Tucker. God, I'm curious as to what's in all those redacted bits.
Well, I want to know what's in the redacted stuff, but I also think we might not even know to this day what got him fired. You know what I mean? Like there could be something that we don't know about that's even worse, maybe connected with the Dominion lawsuit or something else that they decided to cut him loose.
I think eventually it'll come out because this stuff always trickles out because I'm sure it's salacious and it's
all I can say is I hope it comes out before he opens his mouth and tries to spin it his way. Because we've already seen what he's trying to do, right? Yeah. I'm the champion. Now suddenly Tucker Carlson is the champion for, is it free speech and saying unpopular things and
I'm being censored, I'm being canceled. Yeah.
They always say that they're in favor of free speech, but what they mean is they're only in favor of free speech for themselves. I mean, look at Elon Musk.
Certain free speech.
Yeah.
For everybody else. Certain,
Yeah.
So that's
so that was great. I was very excited by that.
Yeah, it was great, and it was awesome to see. I mean, the Abby Grossberg stuff that came out already has just been so bad for Fox and for Tucker Carlson. It's been lovely. It's been delicious.
And we've only seen court filings and like a few recordings. We have seen like the tip of the iceberg from her stuff. Yeah, I can't believe she has something like 70 or 90 recordings, which is insane.
90. Well, she made them in the course of working. That's what you do as a producer. You do these pre-interviews, and she was using a third-party app. So, they were in the cloud. She had them. Unfortunately, we were having some technical difficulties with Red Painter's feed, and so we had to say goodbye to her, which
I know. Yeah.
I wanted to hear more about what's going on in DC. So
I know. Well,
We
we'll
will
get her.
have
We'll
her
try to
back.
get her back when the weather's better. Apparently, the weather was not good.
Yeah, she said it was interfering with her internet.
Yeah.
So,
So
so hopefully we will have her back.
yeah.
Unfortunately for us, the weather here in California is more what we're used to now than it was earlier this year.
Yeah.
So,
Well, out here where I am, we're getting the nice June gloom in April. So
ooh,
it's all nice and cool, and then it's in the low
yeah.
70s when it all burns off. So I'm sorry that you're getting the hot weather, but
Well, we're not just getting the hot weather, we're getting, because the marine layer is there, so we're getting the afternoon smog.
ew.
So,
All right. Well, let's see if we can figure out where we were. Darn, it's too bad we had to let Red go because she had some things to say about
DeSantis.
yeah, Ron DeSantis and Disney. So I'll try to channel her as I'm thinking about it because so I read the whole lawsuit that
Really?
yeah, the whole lawsuit that Disney served DeSantis with, and it is scathing. In fact, my first remark after I read it was, I remember when Donna said, "Don't screw with Disney lawyers," and here's why.
They're the best.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, and for once, I am totally on the corporation side on this one,
me too. So the background on this is that Disney had their own uh, district that Disney World was in, and Epcot, I guess. And
Yes,
then there was more land that has been undeveloped,
right.
and they basically paid to maintain all of that land that they owned. It was in this district. They paid for the fire services, all the emergency services, the roads, all that.
There would be very little to Orlando before Walt Disney and his company set up this deal in the 1960s. And the Disney people have maintained that whole area for 60 years,
Hmm.
basically.
Yeah.
And, it may not be what you think of in good governance, but they've been good stewards of their property.
Well, that not only that, but they've paid more taxes than
Yeah.
anybody else has. They've paid out more to maintain that property. I mean, they've done all the things. So Ron DeSantis is picking this fight with them over the culture wars. So this is the big, they're woke, and I'm going to fight woke corporations because that's some kind of thing. And I don't know what to say. Let me just
It's like the MAGAs, complaining that Fox went woke because of firing Tucker.
right, right. Woke Fox, woke
Woke
Disney.
Fox,
Like
woke
Disney
Disney.
Disney exists to make money. That's what they do, right? And
Right. And
so
Disney has a lot of LGBTQ employees.
they do.
And so, if you are going to go after the free speech rights of, a good percentage of their creative employees, that's a problem. That's a problem for their business.
Yeah. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, he sues Disney, or he doesn't sue Disney. The He basically convenes the legislature and gets them to declare their old district, the one that they're managing, to be null and void, and then appoints his lackeys to oversee the same new district that he creates.
Yeah, he's doing what he did to the schools there.
Right.
Like when he got rid of all of the college, the people running the college, and replaced them with, Christopher Rufo and his ilk.
Right.
And
Same thing, except that Disney is smarter than Ron DeSantis. So they held, meetings, they did public notices, they did all the things. And basically they, took over, they retook their district, and, it was all nobody noticed, but it was all done in, public and everything. And
it's done by the rules.
right. And then they announced their intent to develop that area. and that said that the development would bring 13,000 new jobs. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but it is nonetheless a significant investment. I mean, they want to put billions into this investment.
Sure.
So, if you're Ron DeSantis, you should be like, yeah,
If
that's
you are
awesome.
a normal governor of a state,
Right. But instead, he's not, and so he's actually using the power of the state to punish Disney, and that's what they're suing on. And they're suing for First Amendment violations, basically that they have the right to speak and not be persecuted by the government for it. And which by the way means that we're enshrining the corporations are people too thing, but I think it's pretty well enshrined anyway. So I don't think there's much we could do about that. So there's that.
if they can have freedom of speech rights by virtue of political donations, we may as well give them speech rights by virtue of actual speech.
Right. So they're suing for that, and they're suing under the takings clause too, basically, of the Constitution, which I think they at least have as much chance of winning as the free speech one. I mean, but the whole lawsuit just absolutely rips apart all of the lackeys and I mean, they quote them over and over and over again, and all you have to do is read this thing and to realize that not only is he like gonna completely screw his political career for the rest of his life, but he's gonna lose this. I mean, there's just no way that he has a chance in hell of winning. It's really delicious. I mean,
Gotta love it.
and again, what I was going to say is, don't mess with Disney lawyers.
Nope.
Like you said. I mean, that was the first thing that came to mind, right? Oh, I remember. Don't mess with the Disney lawyers.
You do not, because they've got the best.
Right. So they're, God, Ron DeSantis doesn't know what he's doing is the thing. So, and
but he really doesn't, because you look at his poll numbers now. He was not ready for prime time.
No.
He was doing all of this fundraising, and the billionaires were behind him because they thought he was a more palatable version of Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, every time he gets out of the Fox bubble, the right-wing news bubble, he falls apart. He does not know how to answer a question from an actual journalist.
Right. He doesn't know how to answer questions from journalists. He's on an international tour right now, making an idiot out of himself.
While his state is flooded.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, he hasn't been to the state since it was flooded, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been out gallivanting around. Nobody's in charge there. I think Biden finally signed a disaster declaration that was requested earlier this week. But I mean, Biden consistently signs those things. He's not like Trump. If somebody asks for a disaster declaration, he gives it.
Right.
And so
because he cares about the nation as a whole and the people who live in it, not just the ones who voted for him.
Right. Exactly. So Ron DeSantis is toast, bottom line.
Yeah.
Bye, Ron. I mean, it's just not viable. He's not viable.
Although I was looking forward to seeing somebody try to take Trump down.
Well, I don't think that Red's comments from when she was here, but she was talking about the 30% just absolutely committed to Trump. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're going to have to, I think Trump will be the nominee, and then he'll lose again, and he'll throw the nation into another, into disarray all over again. And it'll be his 30% that do it. And we're going to be fighting like hell just to get people to the polls to vote because of all the voter suppression that they're going to engage in. I mean, they pretty much admitted that this came out too. I don't think we talked about this last week. They've talked about how, they're not going to get the Gen Z. So what they're going to do is just make sure they can't vote.
Yeah, we did talk about it. We touched on it last
Yeah.
week. Not in this particular context.
Right.
So our best case scenario is that the accumulative results of Alvin Bragg, Fonnie Willis, Jack Smith, and Jean Carroll finally brings Trump down.
Right. Well, and it should.
It should, but nothing that's been happening should have happened.
I mean,
None of this should have happened.
oh, I
Hillary
know.
Clinton should have been president.
Yes, she should have.
You know?
He should have been president. He shouldn't have won. But he did.
Yeah.
I mean, and so, she wasn't, and this is now the consequence of that. And
Yeah.
it's bad. It's really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah. So,
And
I mean, Biden running again to me is a really positive thing. I know that the networks are trying to make it sound like it's
oh my God, the networks are driving me nuts. Also on Monday, or was it Tuesday, there was this poll that once again shows how deeply unpopular Biden is. He's too old. The American people don't want him to run because he's too old. And I mean, even again, so-called progressive MSNBC ran that, with Steve Kornacki all day long. And no wonder he shows up as unpopular on some of these polls, right?
right.
They're still talking about the recession that they have been predicting for the last 2 years.
It hasn't happened. Yeah.
And it may, eventually, when it does happen, they'll say, see, we told you there was going to be a recession, because recessions happen.
I was going to say, there's always that cycle. So
Right.
that's not a new thing.
That's not a new thing. But they're going to say, see, we told you this was happening. It's the inflation. The inflation in this latest report was only up 0.3%.
Right.
It has slowed so much. Everything has been working, and unemployment will be ticking up. We're seeing more people, we're seeing more companies go under, and that's because of the interest rate hikes.
Right. Yeah. I know. I went to go get my hair cut earlier this week, and she said, the gal that cuts my hair said, so what do you think? Biden's running again. She said, I'm not sure I want that. And I'm like, why do you not want that? I mean, really, now I'm not being confrontational. It's just that he's done a great job since he's been in. We're past the COVID emergency. COVID's not gone, but we're past the emergency, right? We've got almost full employment. We're moving in the right direction with regard to climate change and electric vehicles. And so why would you not? I said, I cannot think of anybody who has the experience to deal with Congress and all their antics, and to deal with Republicans and all their antics, than Biden. I mean, I just don't understand why you'd want somebody else to.
Right. Why would you change horses midstream right now?
Yeah. And as I said that, she's like, yeah, you know what? You're right. So my theory is that she got a whole earful of the whole Biden's too old, nobody wants him to run, blah, blah, blah. And that caught on. So it's, it's like the media, what's coming first, the chicken or the egg? Are they feeding it out there, or are people thinking that? I think it's the first, that they're feeding it out there.
That they follow it with Biden's too old, and Harris is even more unpopular.
So
she's doing a fantastic job. If you have to work to find out what she's doing, because they're not covering her.
Right. I mean, can we just talk a little bit about Kamala Harris?
Yes.
And how much I mean, I don't know. Nobody covered, I guess, really her trip to Africa, which is a really critical trip. I mean, it's huge. It's not just a PR thing. This is like China and Russia are trying to dig their claws into Africa. And she's over there making economic agreements and doing all this stuff. And, she was like amazing over
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Huge. So, and she's, she's talking to the world leaders, and she's convening panels to talk about women's reproductive rights. And, it's like nobody wants to report on her, but she is working so hard every single day, and the stuff she's doing is great. And I'm sorry if, media doesn't get their chunk of Kamala time that they need to have. And so as a result, they don't cover her. We all get the same emails. I get them. She's got her own press pool. It isn't like she's not giving access, and if they're not covering her, that's not my fault. And and they shouldn't complain about her if they're not going to cover her.
But they do.
I know.
They do. And so, I loved seeing how prominently she was in the campaign material that's been released. I can't remember if it was the announcement message or the ad, or if it was both of them.
I think it was both.
Both together.
Yeah. No, I think it was both. I mean, he has made a point out of this being a partnership.
Yeah.
This is why it's so frustrating to me that they try to make it adversarial.
Yeah.
They are not adversaries.
No.
They're just not. She has a portfolio, she has assignments, she does her work, and he does his. And it's fine. And it's going really well, actually, in many, many ways. So I don't know. It's super frustrating to me that the first female vice president is essentially ignored by the press, and then they send out the message that she's not doing a great job. She's,
Well, for the vice president to be ignored by the press is business as usual.
Yeah, I agree.
It's when they ignore her and then act as if she's doing nothing. That's the part. That's the part that's frustrating.
Right. I mean, I'm thinking back now to Al Gore and, when he was Clinton's vice president. And I mean, if nothing else, you knew that Al Gore's thing was climate change.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you got that right out of the gate. But for her, there's just not even that much coverage. You're right about vice presidents being sort of non-entities as far as press coverage goes. Although Mike Pence, I mean, certainly got his share of coverage for looking longingly at Trump. And
yeah, that's not good coverage. Unless
somebody to look at you like Mike Pence looks at you.
Unless the president is someone who wants nothing but devotion, which this president was. So that was, Mike Pence was doing his job.
Right.
By looking at Trump that way.
Yeah.
But and then, of course, Joe Biden's announcement is followed with an RNC ad where they've got nothing that they can really complain about with Biden because he's doing a good job. So they AI'd, the streets of carnage, cities in carnage, and stuff.
American carnage. They basically
American carnage.
And that was so freaking wild to me. I like you've essentially admitted with that ad that there is nothing specific that you can criticize about Biden. So instead, you're going to create this dystopian hellscape that wouldn't exist under Biden anyway, but might well exist under Trump.
Oh yeah.
Right. And it's just I mean, the RNC is, I don't know, their messaging shop is not great right now. I mean, Republicans have a lot of problems just because they're infighting. I mean, they're divided all over the place. They're divided between MAGAs and not MAGAs. Although honestly,
that's a good thing.
Oh, it is a good thing. Although honestly, I don't like to fool myself into thinking that that's something that we should look, that's going to basically help us or benefit us, because in the long run, they all come home.
Yeah.
Right. They all come home. So
because it's a cult.
Right.
it's they say, oh, both sides are so tribal. No, they're tribal. We're just trying to preserve the union.
Yeah, that's it
We're
in a
just trying to
nutshell.
preserve democracy.
Yeah,
You guys are coming for us. We're going to defend ourselves. But, that's not us being tribal. That's not
right.
both sides.
Yeah, we're united. I mean, that's the difference, right? Where that what they're spinning is tribal is, or they're calling in their side, just honest debate. It's not an honest debate at all. I mean, basically Trump is taking over their party, and they're letting him, and they're becoming more and more extreme. I mean, and they're putting clowns in. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene has no business being anywhere near the committees that she's on.
No.
And I mean, I sat through Randy Weingarten's testimony this week in front of
Oh,
and it was embarrassing to see how she was treated. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, is the viral moment. I'm sure everybody's seen it, where she basically said, that Randy wasn't a mother because she couldn't be a mother because she was gay, essentially.
they
And
weren't her biological children.
right. And so somehow that means that she's not a mom. I mean, it was ugly, and it was sad to me that was the moment that went viral, only because the actual great moment was Maxwell Alejandro Frost,
I love him.
when he basically laid out the problem with schools is not transgender or wokeness or whatever, it's guns.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a great 5 minutes, and I wish that had been the viral moment, because that was certainly a better representation of what we need to hear than Marjorie Taylor Greene accusing Randy Weingarten of, not being a mom.
Did you guys put that moment on Crooks and Liars?
We did.
Good.
We did. We have a video on
Go
there.
look at it, everybody.
Yeah.
Go look at it.
Yeah. So yeah, they're just clowns. I mean, that committee had Jim Jordan and Marjorie Taylor Greene on it. I know, right? And Jim Jordan, he was
The
he went
Democrats on the
after her.
committee need battle pay.
He was just his usual, fast talking, bullshitting self.
Yeah.
He didn't really have any questions. He just wanted to give up, a little speech, and went on. But it was just, it frustrates me that they wasted Randy's time that way. Because they didn't really care about anything. It was just a way to bash her for being a teachers union president.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
But that's what all of these House committees are doing.
Yeah, I know.
It's all so performative, and nothing's going to happen. Kevin's debt ceiling bill finally got passed.
And here's an example of how they don't govern. I mean,
Right.
Kevin admits it's DOA when it goes to the Senate, and yet forces all of his Republican members to vote on it. And it's George Santos who casts the deciding vote. And, he barely squeaks it through, 217 to 215. And all those guys that are in the swingy districts now are on the record as having voted for that crappy bill and a possible default. So they're on the record as voting for 22% cuts to veterans benefits, to SNAP, to, just all the things that we actually need that take care of people in this country. And all of them are on the record with that now, and they're going to be used in ads. I guarantee it.
Oh, I sincerely hope so, because Garcia, I don't want to be represented by Garcia.
Right?
So whoever wins in our primary, whoever wins that district.
Yeah.
On the other side.
I miss Katie Hill.
Yeah, that was unfortunate.
It was. So anyway, I mean, it did pass. It is going to the Senate. It is dead on arrival. And in the end, I'm telling you that the House is going to end up passing a clean debt ceiling increase that's sent over from the Senate. and it's going to be Democrats and a couple of Republicans that do it.
All right, that's Karoli's prediction.
Yep.
And let's hope we can find a couple of Republicans, a couple of sane
Those
Republicans.
New York Republicans in the swingy districts didn't want to vote on that shitty
Okay.
McCarthy bill. And this is the way that they can crawl back a little bit, right? Is just to go for the clean
That's
debt
true.
ceiling.
That's true. You know, when you were talking about McCarthy doing this bill that's dead on arrival in the Senate, you know, of course, that's what Pelosi did when she had a Republican Senate. But what you reminded me that the things that the Democratic House was passing were popular.
Yes. Well, there was that, but also they sent over clean debt ceiling bills.
They
When
did.
Trump was president,
We did not.
Democrats sent over clean debt ceiling increases. They did not tie them into anything else.
We did not play games with the economy. And the one time there was going to be a shutdown, oh, I can't even remember the reason for that, but I know that it was a good reason.
Well, that was a budget resolution. That wasn't a debt
Right.
ceiling resolution.
It was a budget.
Yeah, they basically didn't want
To pay for the
you know,
wall. That's what it was.
right. Yeah. So, I mean, that like budget resolutions are different, and that's where the fight needs to happen, not
That's
on the
right.
debt ceiling.
Right.
Right? They can
I
fight over the budget all day long, but it's the debt ceiling that has to go up. You know?
I really do hope that the next time we have full control that they abolish the debt ceiling because it's stupid.
I don't know why they didn't. Well, I do know.
I know
This
why.
is
Mansion cinema.
Don't get me started, especially on Manchin right now.
Well,
Right? I mean, so Manchin's up for re-election, and honestly, so is John Tester over in Montana, and I would put all kinds of money into John Tester's. I don't really want to pay for Joe Manchin. I really don't.
I don't think Joe Manchin's going to win. I
not
think
against
that
injustice.
exactly.
I don't. Yeah.
Exactly. And he would be smart to be a Democrat again, you know, because being Republican light with a D after his name isn't helping him.
Right. No, it's not. And I mean, he's at this point, he's not even Republican light. So
Right.
yesterday, the Republicans forced a repeal of the regulations about trucks and emissions from trucks and everything. And they were able to do it because Joe Manchin was there and Dianne Feinstein was not.
Yeah.
So Joe Manchin voted with the Republicans. We didn't have the offsetting Democrat to do it, and so it went through. I mean, and it's like, well, fine, you know, if that's where we're going with this, then I'm not going to give money for him to get reelected. I'm just not. You know, I'd rather put it into John Tester's race, somebody, you know, I don't always agree with, but who is reliably Democratic.
Yeah.
Right. And everything. And as far as Dianne Feinstein goes, right now, her staff, in my opinion, is defrauding us all. That's what I think.
Sure seems that way.
Feels like it.
It's sad.
Yeah. I mean, it is sad. I mean, there's probably a lot that is going on behind the scenes that I don't know, and that's fine. But what I do know is that we need that vote in the Senate. I am tired of being half a state.
I know.
So,
you know.
And I know I've alienated a lot of people with that particular view. I think it'll prove itself to be the right. I think we'll find out that she should have resigned when that letter went out to have her substituted. That should have been a resignation.
Yeah.
So we shall see.
I was having more fun talking about Trump's legal problems.
I know. Well, there's so many of them. I mean, we didn't really even talk about E. Jean Carroll and her testimony, which sounds like, at least from the reports, that it was totally believable.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it was like, I guess at some point, like Joe Tacopino was after yesterday because she didn't remember the exact date, and she did, this and that, and she said she didn't scream. Why
Yeah.
didn't you scream? She said, whether I screamed or not, I was still raped.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have screamed in the middle of Berta with Donald Trump doing that. I wouldn't have screamed either. I would have been like, what the fuck is going on here? And shocked. And it would have been later that I would have been screaming into the mirror, I think. But yeah. So anyway, it sounds like she's standing up, pretty solidly on cross-examination. In the meantime, he's out there on Truth Social, like pissing off the judge is what he's doing. I mean, the judge was like I think they was ready to hold him in contempt.
Yeah. And then Eric did it after that.
I know. Well, Eric is not the smartest boy. What can we say? He's really not. So, we didn't, when we were talking about Tucker getting fired, we didn't talk about the fact that Don Lemon got fired too.
Monday was a weird day.
It was a weird day. And then so I thought that if Don Lemon was fired, it was probably because he pissed off Caitlin Collins, and she's kind of the future of CNN's, the face of the future of CNN at this point and everything. But then some reporters were putting out a clip that he did the week before where he basically debunked bullshit, and did it in no uncertain terms. I thought if that's why he got fired, then CNN has a real problem.
One of the theories that I heard was that he debunked the bullshit on a morning show. Yeah. Like, it is an appropriate thing to debunk the bullshit when you are in the evening, but they moved him to the morning to get him out of the evening. And in the morning, people want light, happy news. There is some truth to that.
Well, there is
to the thinking about the programming in the morning. They want it,
but then you don't book that guy,
right?
Don Lemon got in the
right
discussion with, right? Why are you going to book bullshitters for light?
Because CNN wants to be Fox now.
I get that, but then they don't want that guest. And if they had that guest and he debunked that guest, well, that's their problem if they didn't like what he did.
Well, but if they were also trying to get rid of Don Lemon in some way, they take him out of prime time, put him in the morning, and then get angry at him for acting like he's still in prime time.
Yeah. Well, that worked, I guess.
Yeah. So somehow Don Lemon on the loose doesn't seem as threatening to democracy as Tucker does.
No, Tucker's definitely, and all the stuff that was going around about, he's got, he's got a studio in his house. He could just start broadcasting on YouTube like Alec Jones does. And I'm thinking, I will say this, Rachel Maddow is right. He will never again have the reach that he had on Friday last week.
Yeah.
Never. He'll be, that's not to say he won't have reach. He will. But it will never be, it won't be like he had.
Did you see the TMZ report that Newsmax is offering him
the whole station?
Yes. You can be the next Roger Ailes.
I did see that, and I thought, oh God, okay, Newsmax, whatever. I mean, I suppose it's better than Lindell TV, or I mean, my first thought was that Steve Bannon was going to invite him to, become part of Real America's Voice.
Well, that might be fun because I don't think those two egos would be able to get along.
No, I don't think so either.
But Newsmax and OAN, they still have to face lawsuits from Dominion, right?
I think so.
Okay.
It seems like that they settled something and apologized at some point. So I don't know what specifically that was, but it was, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's still stuff happening, or Smartmatic or something is going on that wasn't settled. So I think we're safe with Tucker getting another network platform, at least for a while.
Yeah, but OAN or Newsmax is not going to bring in. I mean, they're bragging that they got 500,000 viewers, and it's like, okay,
People are sampling. They're
huh?
gonna people sample. The
Yeah, I mean,
the
that's
person
what
that they
happened,
watch is gone. So they're
right?
going over to the other place, but they're going to go back to doing what their habits are. And people don't like to change the channel much.
Well, that's what I was.
I'm
That's what I guess I was trying to say about Tucker is that there's always the diehards, but
yeah.
for the most part, people want to turn on Fox News and they want to they just want to leave it on. They want to
Yeah.
and it's sort of there's an outrage cycle that that they are kind of addicted to, and they'll find somebody to fill that slot. I mean, whether it's going to be Jesse Waters or somebody else, they'll find somebody who was equally as hateful as Tucker Carlson, equally as hateful, and people will settle back into their habits. That's what's going to happen. That's why I say he'll never be as powerful as he was
Right.
on Prime.
Right. So, this week would have been a good one to have the wheel, because there's
Right?
so many,
Yeah.
they're not all interrelated like they
Yeah.
have been the last few weeks. Want to talk about SCOTUS a little?
Oh, sure. Let's talk about SCOTUS.
So this week we learned that Gorsuch also had a corrupt real estate deal.
Yep.
With the head of a law firm that appears often in front of the court.
Yep. And John Roberts' wife makes millions. So let's just talk about the John Roberts' wife thing, because that was a thing. It's been a thing in the past, and then it was a thing again today. She made like $10 million from placing lawyers in positions, and that's more than anybody else made. And so that's like, at first I was like, well, so what? I mean, she is entitled to have a job. She can do that. And then I saw that basically she's making way more than anybody else is, way more. And then it's like, well, wait, now we got to think about this a little bit, and think about whether or not, this is ethical. Of course, it's not ethical, right? I mean, she's placing lawyers that appear before the court. And that was really the story that came out today. But also the amount of money she's making from doing that is just like off the charts compared to the other people doing the same thing.
Okay. That does sound very suspicious.
Yeah. I mean, $10 million.
That's a lot of money.
That is a lot.
That's more than Jenny was making.
I know. I guess having if your husband is the Chief Justice, I guess you get a little bit.
I guess
for that.
I guess.
So yeah. So then so basically we have a court that is running afoul of all these ethics guidelines, right? And so Dick Durbin invites Chief Justice Roberts to come and have a conversation with the Judiciary Committee. And you can take with whether that was the right thing to do or not. But I mean, I think that a subpoena was in order, but again, we're missing the one person that would mean they could do that. So, what did Chief Roberts say to that invitation? Chief Justice Roberts, no way, not gonna do it. Not going to show up. And then he cites like a bunch of times, like this is when, that there was testimony, and this is when there was testimony, and it's rare, blah, blah, blah. And here's the ethics guidelines that we've all signed on to. And it's like, well, dude, I mean, if you're not even going to comply with those ethics guidelines,
then what's the point? There's no accountability. There may be ethics guidelines, but there's no accountability on them.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like we sign guidelines and then we're going to go ahead and do whatever we want, no matter how unethical it is.
Yeah.
So what's the point?
The people who are interpreting our laws, the highest court, is above the law.
Yeah.
That's not what was intended.
Right. So it's just a mess. And unfortunately, we don't have a Judiciary Committee with any teeth right now. Because, yeah, Dianne Feinstein is not there. And Republicans, are like, no, we're not going to let you substitute somebody else in.
Yeah.
And, why would they do that? This way they get to block all the judges.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I think as soon as he found out that Di-Fi wasn't going to come back, that's when Mitch decided to come back. Because, good, now I can have some fun.
Right. And she's not coming back.
Right.
Which is why her staff is basically perpetrating a fraud on all of us. Just tell us, Fran, my colleague today, basically said, I want proof of life.
Yeah.
And I couldn't agree more. That day has come. So anyway, that's that's our Supreme Court at work. And in the meantime, the North Carolina Supreme Court went back to a conservative majority. So they basically reversed the old court on the gerrymandering. So now the good news is the bad news is that North Carolina will be ridiculously gerrymandered. The good news is that stupid lawsuit that was in front of the Supreme Court about the independent legislature theory will probably be gone, because the whole foundation for it was the North Carolina Supreme Court decision that's been repealed.
Well, you know what? They will come back with that independent legislature theory.
Yes, they will.
It will come back.
Yep.
Because they haven't rammed that one down our throats yet.
Yay.
And then we had Montana, where another Democratic legislator was silenced.
Yeah, not expelled, but silenced, yes.
Silenced.
Yeah.
So she can still vote, but she can't be on the floor.
Right. So she's...
Can't talk.
I mean, it's great because she's like sitting right outside.
Yeah.
She's got
trying to get her job done,
Yeah, she's like, I'm still here working. So, of course, the reason that they did this is because she's trans.
And she was protesting. She was using her rights to advocate against an anti-trans law.
Right.
Which is her right and her duty to do. That is what she was elected to do.
Right. Yeah.
And so they just kicked her out. Oh, yeah. Decorum.
Like, this is why I have to say that this generation of Democrats, this younger generation that's willing to go in there and fight and take the punishment, standing up basically for it, it's really something to be admired.
Yeah.
They're not going to sit there and play nice. And honestly, our senators should take a lesson. Our Democratic senators take a lesson from all this. Stop being so goddamn nice.
Yep. Well, they do admire them. I've been cracking up at all of the photos that Democratic congressmen and senators have been posting every time Justin Pearson or Justin Jones is in the House. And everybody wants to pose with them.
Yeah.
Oh, Ted Lieu, I'm going to pose with Justin Jones and Chuck Schumer.
Honestly, this is the new generation of Democrats, and they're in red states, and they're working their butts off. And
Maxwell Frost is wonderful. I mean, seeing the Tennessee 2 and Maxwell Frost together, and it's like, yes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, makes my heart just sing.
I love Maxwell Frost and Richie Torres. He's another one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a bunch of them that are just like this younger generation is great.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to stand up and fight for once, which is nice. So yeah. I mean, that they encourage me. They actually give me hope.
And you know what? That is a good note to end our show on.
I agree. Yeah. I know.
Okay. Another hour has gone by.
It has. There's
Um,
sad that Red couldn't be here for the whole
I
thing, but we'll
know.
try and bring her.
We will definitely bring her back.
Yeah.
But not next week because we'll be dark.
Yeah.
But do join us again
Mhm.
on YouTube, momocrats.buzzsprout.com, your favorite podcast service such as iTunes, Google, and Amazon Music. And be sure to check our Facebook page for updates. I'm Donna Schwartz Mills, along with Karoli, and we're saying goodbye for the MOMocrats. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
MOMocrats MOMochat is part of the DemCast family of podcasts.